We are living in a time between worlds, between who we were and who we are becoming, between certainty and intuition, between the life we were told to want and the life our soul is quietly asking for. This is season 3 of Big Crystal Energy, and this is the season of the veil. The veil is not something that appears once a year. It is not reserved for one night, one ritual, or one moment on the calendar. The veil is a space of awareness, and many of us are standing in it right now, feeling more sensitive, more tired, more intuitive, less willing to perform versions of ourselves that no longer fit. Welcome to Big Crystal Energy, Season 3, the Veil Season. I'm Ashleigh, and I live at the threshold, between medicine and magic, between the visible world and what waits just beyond it, between the person I present and the witch I am. I've learned something. The in-between isn't a problem to solve. It's a place of power. This season, we're exploring the veil, where Victorian women spoke for the dead, where fairies guard the crossroads, where glamour becomes armor, where you stop apologizing for being both things at once. The crystals have always known the way through. Let me show you. Hello, friends, and welcome to Big Crystal Energy. I am Ashleigh, and I am so excited for season 3. I know I keep saying that on every episode, and now we're into January, and I realize that season 3 has already kicked off, and we've already had several episodes, but I'm still very excited about it. And I am going to go deep tonight on the veil, liminal spaces, and looking between worlds. And I just want to say that I have been given such a gift of abundance today. I was thinking as I was driving home that I really wanted to record this episode when I got home from work. It's been sitting here on my desk, ready to roll all weekend, but I wanted to do it when my house was quiet. I did not want interruption from children, from husband. Well, you can hear my dog, her collar, jingling in the background, but she's fine. And I just wanted to have a moment to do it. And then right as I was pulling up to my house, my husband texted me and he said, I'm going to take the kids to the jungle gym or to the gym so they can get their wiggles out. What? Hallelujah. I have time, quiet time in my house. So I hurried upstairs, changed out of my scrubs, lit a candle, and let's go. So the first thing I want to do is I wrote a season 3 manifesto. I thought this would be really fun and something different that I've never done before. So I wrote this manifesto as it's almost like a poem. It's something that I probably will end up sharing on my social media. It's kind of this touchstone for the whole next year. Okay, so I'm going to start with that, and then we'll get into it. We'll get into all the good stuff. I am just so incredibly joyful and excited and pumped up and blessed and all of the things that this season is happening, that I have made some changes within my team. I can't wait to see where everything goes. And so let's dive into it. So season 3 manifesto, the season of the veil, which I have alluded to, and I've been alluding to, and I will keep alluding to as we keep going through all of this. So here we are. We are living in a time between worlds, between who we were and who we are becoming, between certainty and intuition, between the life we were told to want and the life our soul is quietly asking for. This is season 3 of Big Crystal Energy, and this is the season of the veil. The veil is not something that appears once a year. It is not reserved for one night, one ritual, or one moment on the calendar. The veil is a space of awareness, and many of us are standing in it right now, feeling more sensitive, more tired, more intuitive, less willing to perform versions of ourselves that no longer fit. This season is for those moments. We are no longer rushing to cross thresholds. We are learning how to stand inside them, in the liminal, in the pause, in the uncertainty, in the becoming. Season 3 honors the in-between, the space between logic and magic, science and spirit, the visible and the unseen. This is where intuition sharpens. This is where messages arrive sideways. This is where soul speaks softly but clearly. In this season, we talk about what it really means when people say, the veil is thin, why liminal spaces feel eerie, sacred, and familiar all at once. Direct spirit communication without fear or spectacle. Divination as a language, not a performance. Crystals as anchors between worlds. Glamour, embodiment, and energetic boundaries. Not everything wants to be summoned. Not everything wants to be explained. Some things want to be felt. Season 3 is not about escape. It's about integration. Bringing the mystical into the mundane, letting intuition coexist with responsibility, allowing magic to live alongside careers, motherhood, exhaustion, ambition, and joy. You do not have to abandon this world to touch something sacred. You are already standing at the threshold. This season is an invitation to slow down, to trust what you sense, to honor the doorway moments of your life, and to stop rushing your own transformation. The veil is not closing. You are simply learning how to see through it. Welcome to season 3. Welcome to the in-between. Welcome to the magic that lives right here. And now that we're here, let's talk about what the veil actually is. What is the veil? The veil that we often hear people talk about, it's not a literal structure. It is something that is symbolic. It's a way of describing layers of perception. It's something that exists between conscious and subconscious, between our rational mind and our intuitive knowing, between the seen and the unseen. And the veil is not something that just tears open. It's a place where your awareness and your sensitivity increase. And I feel like the reason that I wanted to do a whole season about this is because this is where I'm really at in my own life. This is the transition that I've been going through personally. So I feel like this is something that I can really speak to in this moment. Going from having people experience you or relate to you in one way, and then having a spiritual awakening or awakening of who you are in general, and then all of a sudden presenting yourself in a different way that just feels more aligned, like that feels more you, is exciting, but it also can be very challenging. You will notice shifts and changes within your relationships with other people, within your friendships, within your friend groups, within your relationships with family members and loved ones and coworkers. Some people will love your shift and your change. Some people will not like it at all. Some people will understand. Some people will not understand. Some people will be jealous, and some people have ways of hiding their jealousy from you by just not showing up for you anymore. So there's a lot of things that can happen during this time where you're in this in-between space. And it can be hard to juggle because you feel so, for me, I know I feel so excited and so alive inside. And then when someone responds negatively to me in any way, it's really hard because you just want to be like, but let me just explain. Well, why can't you understand this? Or maybe if you just understood this. And what I've come to realize that I'm here on this earth for me, and I don't need to explain every single thing to every single person. And I don't have to I can't say my words. I can't expect every single person to love me or love being around me or like my ideas or even accept me. It's just not realistic. And that's true for any of us, right? We're not going to be every single person's cup of tea, and that's absolutely fine. So I just thought now is the time. Let's deep dive on all these different topics that are very like veil-esque. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have some seriously wonky eyelashes right now. My eyelashes are in the veil and they're going to get redone on Wednesday. But right now, they're just, they're definitely in the veil. So, the next thing I want to talk to you about is what we would consider liminal spaces. So, liminal, that word comes from limen, meaning threshold. It means that it's neither one thing or another, right? So if you're in a liminal space, you're not really of this world or of the other world. You're just in this space of transition. And that can be, you could be in a liminal space when it comes to your job. You know, I have a friend right now that's transitioning from corporate work to working for herself. So she's really in this liminal space of where she's kind of living between the two worlds, right? And so it doesn't really have to necessarily be in a spiritual sense, right? It could actually be in a very physical sense too. Other places that we consider liminal spaces in general, we would think of doorways, hallways, staircases, the time between dusk and dawn, airports, hotels, hospitals, postpartum, grief, reinvention, spiritual awakening periods. And these times can often feel very uncomfortable because our ego really craves certainty. And when we're in a liminal space, our identity, the one that we've been holding on to so tightly, becomes loose. And that can feel very uncomfortable because so often we're so used to showing up and identifying in one certain way. And then all of a sudden that way doesn't feel right or aligned anymore. And so to feel this pull into this liminal space can feel very uncomfortable because we're dissolving these old stories that we've been telling about ourselves. We have new insights into our life and what we want. And it can feel very disorienting, especially when it's happening to us and we don't even have the vocabulary or the terminology around it. So maybe you're listening to this episode and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I know what you mean, but I never was able to put words to what I was feeling. Well, it's a liminal space. It truly is. And when you hear people say, and I've even had friends of mine say, like, I've heard this term before, but I didn't really know what it means. When people say that the veil is thin, what does that terminology actually mean? Some people will think when they hear about it, they're like, oh, this is dangerous or whatever. No, it's not dangerous. It's not a dangerous period. It's not a chaotic period. No spirits are just like flooding into the reality of our world. That's not what it's about. What's actually happening is when we feel the veil, this liminal space between our worlds thinning, what's actually happening is that our intuition is heightened, that we maybe are having really vivid dreams, that we're noticing all these crazy synchronicities that are happening. And maybe we're just very emotionally sensitive, or we feel a pull towards doing different types of divination. Maybe you're really pulled towards using your tarot cards or your oracle cards or your runes or whatever type of divination that you like to do. Or maybe you're really drawn to doing some kind of ritual. And I think that it's really important to normalize that experience because throughout our lives, we're probably going to go through many liminal periods, right? I think another really common one that women go through a lot as moms is these liminal periods of like, you have this idea that you want to have a child, and then you go through this period of pregnancy, and then you go through this period of having the baby, and then being postpartum, and then you go from the concept of having a child and being pregnant, but then all of a sudden, just in a moment, you're completely transformed into actually being a mother and having a tiny human to take care of. And that change of identity is very jarring. And I think that's probably that's a big reason why women have postpartum depression too, because it's such a sudden transformation. I mean, obviously, we're talking about a rapid change in our hormones, and there's so many things that cause postpartum depression. I'm not really meaning to get into that specifically, but I'm just saying, like, that transition is a very liminal space. And we should normalize this experience because it happens to, I would say, all of us at some point in our lives, right? We can be very normal, grounded, functional people, and then we go into this liminal space, and then we just feel so dysregulated, right? And our sensitivity during that time does not mean that we are unstable. It just means that we are having this heightened sense of awareness. We're not unstable. We're just feeling a lot of feels. So one of the other things that we can think about too, in regards to the veil, when we hear that term, a lot of times people are thinking about the veil in terms of spirit communication, where there's certain times of the year, specifically, we hear this a lot around Halloween or Samhain. We often hear this a lot around times like Yule or Christmas. These are liminal seasons where the veil is thin and people do more ancestor communication. We're trying to get in touch with loved ones or friends that have passed on, our guides, our spirit guides. Maybe we're getting a lot of intuitive nudges during that time. And there's also this thing with paranormal versus our intuition, right? Our intuition really lets us know what we see. Is it real or is it not real? Is it something not paranoia? Is it paranoia or is it paranormal? It can't be both. Maybe it's both. I don't know. Maybe our paranoia is making us feel like we see stuff that's paranormal. You guys, what is happening? Yeah, so that could be part of it too. You know, most people in these liminal spaces, we're getting these sensations, we're getting these subtle experiences that are happening, and it doesn't have to be these big, huge experiences where all of a sudden we see an apparition or we see a ghost or we hear a whisper. Sometimes during these liminal seasons, we get these subtle hints of maybe something paranormal, but it doesn't always have to be something so big. And I think that during these times when we are in liminal spaces or when the veil is so-called thin, it's a really great time for us to work with our tools of divination, whatever it is that we choose to use or whatever we feel more comfortable with or whatever we feel called to during that time. I'm a big tarot girly. I love that. Oracle. Some people love to work with their pendulum. They love to do scrying, either with an obsidian mirror or a crystal ball, or maybe you want to do some automatic writing, or maybe you want to get out your Ouija board. I don't know. I mean, that sounds fun to me, but I sure can tell you, I don't have any friends around here that are real excited about using a Ouija board. And if you know where I live and you live near me and you want to play with a Ouija board, I have a really great one from 1907 that I have yet to use because I don't have anyone to use it with me and I don't really want to do it by myself. And my husband he's a non-believer. And so just doing it with him would not be that fun. So, yeah. So calling all Ouija board people, come find me. I want to do a session on my new Ouija board. Well, my new to me Ouija board. But I do want to remind you guys, when it comes to the veil, when it comes to spirit communication, when it comes to potentially using a Ouija board, not everything wants engagement. So you need to be very discerning, and you need to, if you're doing something with someone else, you need to have consent from them. You need to ask these spirits if they even want to communicate with you or what it is that you want to do. Just make sure that your lines of communication are open, and make sure you ground and protect yourself, please. All right. Why are crystals ideal ideal for working with the veil. Crystals are something that bridge physical matter and energetic awareness, right? So with our crystal, they have a structure that is consistent. Their energy, their frequency is stable. So they are a physical construct, let's just say, right? They're physical. You can hold a crystal in your hand, and their energetic frequency is stable. So they work on this plane between the physical world and on the other side of the veil, or whatever you want to call it. And so you can have a crystal and it kind of helps root you in both. Whereas us, energetically, as humans, our frequencies are all over the place, right? So a crystal can really anchor your intuition into your body, right? So if you are working with your tarot cards during this time, I think, have a crystal near you that you feel very grounded by, that you feel very called to work with. Maybe something that helps you feel like you're able to communicate with your spirit guides. Maybe some smoky quartz or black tourmaline for grounding. Things like that are really great to have around you when you're working with these energies. But I want you to realize crystals don't open up the veil. They just kind of help us focus as we are working through it. So one of the fun things to do or to try during the seasons when the veil is thin, or when you personally feel like you're in a liminal space, try scrying. So I've done a whole episode in the past on scrying. So if you want to go back and listen to all of that, you definitely can. Scrying is a practice of soft focus. It's not about seeing full visions. It's a practice that allows symbols, emotions, and knowing to arise. So let me just say, I'm going to get into a little bit of the technicality of scrying a little bit further down as I go through this. I'm going to link in the show notes my episode all about scrying. So if you want to do a deep dive on that, please do, because I think it's one of the coolest things to work with during seasons when the veil is thin or when we are feeling very liminal. I think that it could be a really fun type of divination to work with if you're interested. If you're feeling quite mysterious. So when you're working with a crystal ball or obsidian mirror, you want to normalize the fleeting images that you get, the colors that you're seeing, the emotional impressions that you're feeling, the sudden insights that you have. All of those things count, okay? So, for example, with obsidian mirror scrying, the obsidian is usually made out of the volcanic glass, which is a representation of both fire and earth. The obsidian is often associated with shadow work. It's associated with truth and protection. The obsidian mirror will absorb visual noise. It encourages inward vision, and it's especially supportive for shadow or ancestral work. Now, as far as a crystal ball, you could use a clear crystal ball. It doesn't have to be like one of those huge ones that you see on TV. It can just be something that's small. You can use either clear quartz or smoky quartz are preferred. And the quartz we call the master healer or the master amplifier. So the quartz amplifies whatever messages are coming through to you and helps you translate your intuition. Crystal balls themselves do not show the future, right? So a lot of the misrepresentation around crystal balls is people think like, oh, you're going to sit down and you're going to see somebody's future. No, what it does is it's a practice of allowing yourself to start using the crystal to gain insights, to gain intuition, to gain small visions, but you're never probably going to see the future laid out before you. That's just Hollywood, and that's not real. The crystal ball really just reflects what your intuition already understands. So let's just say you were interested in doing some sort of scrying. You would want to start, if you're a beginner, with a session that's only 5 to 10 minutes. So what you would want to do is you would want to have your preferred method, either the obsidian mirror or the crystal ball or a bowl of water or whatever it is, whatever your preferred method of scrying. And you'll want to place a candle kind of behind you so that the light of the candle is reflected into the source. And you'll want to gaze softly into your crystal ball and just see what visions, what things are coming into your mind, what things are you seeing, what colors are coming up for you. And when you're done, journal all this. And don't judge yourself for what you're seeing. Okay, so as you're journaling it, if you're seeing a bunch of things and you can't make any sense out of any of it, that's okay. You have to practice, and who knows, maybe that which you were seeing doesn't make sense today, but let's just say 2 weeks from now, something will come up and you're like, oh my gosh, that actually really makes sense now, because when I was working with my crystal ball, I got a vision or I got a feeling or I got an understanding of something. And now here it is. And when you're done working with your method or tool of choice, you want to say something to close your session. Say maybe, thank you for what was shown. I close the space now. And you need to be very clear when you're done. Other crystals that are great to use with veil work would be things aside from obsidian. You would want labradorite is great. That is really the stone for me of intuition. Amethyst, moonstone, celestite, which I just had an episode all about. So yes, I will be linking the scrying episode in the show notes. When the veil often feels thinnest to us as a collective is often during seasons of transition. The darker half of the year, transitioning into the lighter half of the year, anytime we have things that are distinct beginnings and endings. So personal thresholds for us: birth, death, significant illness, significant healing, parenthood, spiritual awakening. The veil is as much internal as it is external. So, why this year is a liminal year? Well, some of the things that we're going to be exploring: collective exhaustion with everything that's going on in the world, our personal identity shifts that we always go through. I mean, we often, all of us shift identities at least subtly from year to year. Some of the systems that we've been using in our lives, those systems can start dissolving. Sometimes things that worked for us for 10 or 15 years, they just don't work for us anymore. And I think a lot of us are having this desire for meaning beyond productivity, right? So for me, I know that so much of my life has been based on how many shifts can I work at my job and how much money can I make and how much of this can I do and filling the calendar and all the things. But what I have really realized is that I want so much meaning to my life that's so much far beyond all of that. And that is a huge purpose and guiding light as to why I even do this podcast. Because for me, some of the greatest joys of doing the podcast are truly just the people that I meet, that I get to interact with, the messages that you guys send me, the connection. That is so much more valuable than a price tag or an income, because that is truly life fulfilling. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This year isn't asking us to decide faster. It's asking us to listen longer. And I can tell you guys, I've been working with this tarot journal, and all of the messages that keep coming through to me are: you need to slow down. You need more quiet time to think. You need time to process. And I'm always getting a little bit frustrated because I think to myself, yes, I know that. I need quiet time. I need downtime. I need time to process and be creative and just sit with my thoughts. But on the other side of it, and I know a lot of you can relate because a lot of us are parents, but we also have the demands of our job, and we have the demands of parenthood, and we have the demands of being in a relationship with our partner, and also trying to be a good friend and trying to fill all these boxes. And so at the end of it, when is that time for introspection? When is that downtime even available to us? I don't know. So I know for me, I'm personally implementing some different systems within my own personal life and within the podcast to help free up time so that I don't have to feel like every single day, every single moment has to be filled with something. So it's like if I get home from work, I can come home from work, I can make dinner, I could do my workout, and then I don't also have to feel like I have to do X, Y, Z, da 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 before I can go to bed when I'm just like then totally exhausted. And I mean, I have goals this year, you guys. I have 26 books that I want to read for fun. And to some of you that are super readers, that probably seems like nothing. And to some of you that haven't read a book in 5 years, 26 books probably seems like a lot. We'll see if it actually happens. I'm just throwing that number out there because it's 2026. But I think all of this ties back to why this is my purpose of the year. This is a personal evolution for me. This is the next big era and evolution of Big Crystal Energy. We're going from a podcast that was strictly just about crystals and choosing crystals and cleansing crystals and charging them and how to work with them. Like initially, all of the podcast ideas that I was coming up with were all based around that. But I feel like it was a pretty quick departure because I realized there's so much more to it. The crystals are the anchor, right? The crystals are what keep us grounded in this world and the other world. The crystals were the gateway for me, for my spiritual awakening. I think crystals are such a gateway for so many people in the metaphysical community because you can't go wrong with a crystal, right? They're gorgeous. The colors are calming or empowering or illuminating. So a crystal is something that feels very tangible. A crystal is something that you can have and it doesn't seem overly witchy, right? Someone could come to your house and you have a crystal on your counter and they may just think it's a piece of decoration. They may not know that you've had an entire spiritual journey with that stone, right? So I think that for a lot of people, the crystals are the gateway. The crystals open the door to so much more. And for me, the crystals are truly something that I always keep coming back to. There's something that I can always wear with me. Like I have these beautiful crystal earrings, right? And it's just become this whole energy about myself. And I love when people see me and they're like, oh, you're the crystal girl, or oh, do you have a crystal for this? And, sometimes I'm like, oh, you guys, come on. Like, I'm not trying to be cheesy about this, but it's also fun too. So I want you to think to yourself right now, as the new year is starting, we're just getting into 2026. Where in my life am I standing in between? And what is it asking me to notice? And I want you to be reassured that you don't have to rush transformation. It's actually much better not to. And you don't have to completely cross the threshold from one world to the next. You can have your toes dipped in both, right? And you can sometimes just kind of stand at the threshold. Maybe you're unsure. Maybe you need to do some more research. Maybe you're not sure if one thing is for you. Maybe you want to try it for a little bit and then you want to go back. You don't have to decide one thing or the other. And that is something that I have really, really come to realize. I don't have to decide. I go to work and I do orthopedic surgery by day. And, I'm got one foot strong in Western medicine, which means I can't, but then I can totally have one foot in metaphysics and witchy things and spirituality. And truth be told, and I know I say this all the time, the things that I practice here, the way that I set myself up to be a spiritual person, an empathetic person, it translates so much into my regular day-to-day work because I embody this person, right? So I know I'm a mystical, magical person. And so when I walk into a patient's room, I feel that they can sense that. Yes, she's my medical provider, but she's also going to offer me something that's far beyond that, right? Maybe I offer them a little bit of caring that no other providers offer them. Or maybe they see some of my earrings and they're like, ooh, maybe I want to share that I'm into crystals too. You never really know how you're going to touch somebody's life. And what I realized is that I was scared to show a lot of these things. I was scared to cross that threshold and bring all of this woo-woo stuff into my Western medicine practice. But it's so much more accepted than what I initially thought it would be. I think a lot of people actually really embrace it. I think a lot of people actually kind of vibe with it, enjoy it, right? Because I'm showing them that I can like both or that you can enjoy both and it doesn't have to be one or the other. I can be very serious in my medical craft, in my medical practice, but also bring a little woo. And it actually really works great because healing, recovery, it's not just this linear path, right? When someone's healing from a surgery or from an injury, it's such a process, right? You go through a liminal phase, right? Where let's say, for example, you're someone that was very athletic and very sporty and you love running, and then you get in a car accident and you break your leg. All of a sudden, this identity that you once had as being a runner gets stripped away from you because now you can't even walk on your leg for 3 or 4 months while it's healing. That is very, very emotional for people. That creates depression, anxiety, lack of self-worth. All of a sudden, they can't work at their job. Their income changes. Their whole, socioeconomic path dramatically shifts from just that one moment. And so I think for me, when I'm able to blend the science and the spirituality, I feel like I'm just really able to connect with people on a much deeper level because I understand that. And there's a lot of providers out there who are uncomfortable going there. They're uncomfortable having those emotional conversations with their patients because they themselves probably don't feel comfortable with emotion. And then I walk into the room and I'm very comfortable with it. I'm very comfortable with it. I don't mind if people cry. I don't mind if I get teary-eyed. That's just the kind of person that I am, and I've always been. The veil isn't closing. The veil is always there. And now is the time to just simply start learning how to see through it. And we're going to talk about so many different things in this upcoming season. And we're going to talk about the veil in terms of lots of different things. Okay. So every episode is not going to just be this reiteration of everything that I've said here, right? This is just the intro. This is where I'm explaining the backbone, the structure of what it is that I'm talking about, so that if you are tuning into future episodes, I don't have to keep explaining what the veil is, what a liminal space is. If you're not sure, you come back to this and then you'll understand. Oh, someone's calling me. Oh, potential spam. Okay, fabulous. No, thanks. Let's see here. I want to look ahead. Sorry, I just got distracted. Yes, so January's theme, this month's theme is all about claiming the threshold, and that's going to be in terms of the crystals that we're talking about, the episodes that we're talking about, the episodes that I have. February is going to be all about the veil between worlds. our world, the spirit world, all these different kinds of cool topics. And then we're going to go into March and we're going to get into some Victorian spiritualism, which I am just so pumped about. So with all that being said, I'm going to sign out for now. I want you guys to do a little bit of reflecting. If you have any questions or if any of this didn't make sense, or if you're like, Ashleigh, you rambled way too much, please just let me know. You can find me over on Instagram. That's usually where I'm most active. And until next time, bye. Thank you so much for spending this time at the threshold with me. If you want to go deeper, follow me on Instagram at mystical.mama.ash, where I share daily crystal magic and behind the scenes of this liminal life. You can also find resources, previous episodes, and ways to work with me at bigcrystalenergy.com. We're also on YouTube at Big Crystal Energy Podcast. And if this episode resonated with you, please rate it and review it and share it with a friend that you think would connect with it. It would mean so much to me in helping build this beautiful community of other magical friends and crystal workers. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye.